Hi, my name is Ewan Nicholson and welcome to my YouTube channel Remembering Love. The topic of today's video is, do we need to love ourselves before we can let someone love us? Is this true, or is this just an empty self-help platitude? Now, I'd like to share with you in this video a little bit my own personal story and just what I think about this topic of the necessity of self-love in order to meet and attract a loving relationship into our life. The thing of, you need to love yourself before you can meet someone, it's a pretty common thing you hear out there. It's up on Instagram, it's on Facebook. People are going to put it out there like it is gospel, like it is just the truth. That if you don't love yourself enough, that's probably the reason you're not attracting love into your life. And it's spoken in a way that it's just assumed that it's true. And in this video, I'd really like to examine, well, is it true? Does it actually match the reality of our experience, the people we know, life and all its complexities? And my short answer is no, I don't think it does. Now, all I can tell you is my own personal story, my own personal experience of other people I know, and just my overall perspective on life, relationships, and its sort of mysterious complexity. Now, first of all, I can tell you I've been with my wife, Susanna, for 15 years, more or less. I think it's 15. And I met her at a pretty self-destructive part of my life. I met her at a point in my life where I would say I had very low self-love. I had a lot of self-loathing. I had a lot of conflict and tension. I had a lot of issues, addiction, etc., etc. And I was definitely at a low point in my life. I wasn't high on self-love. I wasn't elevated with self-care and self-compassion. Quite the opposite. Yet here I was. I attracted, in inverted commas, or brought her into my life. Someone very loving, someone very caring, who wanted to love me. And I didn't have a lot of love for myself. So how's that possible that I was at such a self-destructive and self-loathing point in my life and I attracted a loving person into my life? Now, I myself questioned it. I originally thought, what's your problem? Like, you must have some weird dysfunctionality that's subconsciously attracted to my dysfunctionality. There's no way you can just love me and like me without being dysfunctional yourself. I really believe that. But over 15 years, I've discovered that's actually just not true. That it isn't necessarily the case that my dysfunctionality must attract someone equally as dysfunctional. If I'm broken and wounded, I will attract a broken and wounded person. That's just the law. And what I discovered on a personal level, that's actually just not true. And it's not to say my wife doesn't have her issues or she doesn't have her dysfunctionalities and various things that she's got to deal with. That's not the case. But in terms of that principle, that my dysfunction must attract some equal dysfunction, just hasn't been out to be true. So what I've experienced is you can be at quite a self-loathing point in your life and attract love into your life. And that just doesn't match that cliche that until you love yourself to some kind of level of sufficiency, you will not attract a loving relationship. Now, I've also seen friends, people I know, who are at very difficult periods of their life and suffer from childhood trauma, depression, addiction, anxiety, and they end up in loving relationships. Again, so those people I know, how does that match with that maxim that you have to love yourself before you can meet someone else? I've also known people that seem very self-loving and appear on a certain level to have a lot of their stuff together, care for themselves, have good self-esteem, and they have trouble attracting someone. So how does that match up? So this is the issue, is that in my experience, when you look at that rule, it just doesn't match the complexity of life. That why people come into a life, how we attract people, what ends up going on, can't be reduced to a vacuous formula that you have to do this before you can do that. Now, if you're at a point in your life where you are single and you're looking for a loving relationship, will developing self-love and self-care in the face of self-loathing help you? Absolutely. Of course it will. How can it not? But that's going to help you in everything, in everywhere, in every aspect of your life. It's going to help you when you meet someone. It's going to help you when that person you meet goes away or whatever it is. That the act of caring for ourselves, of becoming more conscious, more aware, more self-loving, is not something we do in order to get something. It's something we do because that's what we should be doing, that becoming more aware of our greatness, of our wholeness, of our lovingness is just part of the lifelong journey of healing our childhood trauma and just being a productive and happy human being. But the idea that we can do this and get that is based on a kind of binary, mechanical, linear way of thinking that just doesn't match the complexity and mysterious nature of life. And then it can feel unfair. You can feel kind of aggrieved that I'm doing all these things, I'm loving myself, I'm caring for myself, I'm doing my affirmations, and where is this person? And what you discover is the secret and the law of attraction, all these things just don't match up with reality. That why is it some people who, like me, could be very self-destructive and meet someone loving, someone who's very self-loving doesn't meet someone? And the truth is, I don't know. I really don't know how these things work. And I don't think anyone else does either. Life is full of mystery and complexity. And part of the issue with this thing of you have to love yourself before you can meet someone is how much? How do you measure that? How do you know if you're really doing it? Is it 50% more self-love or 80%? What's the arbitrary point you get there? What happens if you do love yourself enough and still no one comes into your life? Do you got to love yourself more? Do you got to love yourself less? And this is where it just becomes kind of ridiculous. That you end up, these just things fall apart when you examine and put them under close scrutiny. They don't really make sense and they're not really something to kind of work with. So if you're at a point in your life where you want to attract love into your life, love yourself more. But also be aware that there's degrees of control that we don't have. There's an understanding of the complex matrix of life and living and human relationships that there are so many levels and layers to it. That trying to work out simplistic formulas that I do this and I'll get that, just, you burden yourself unnecessarily. So if you're at a point where you are trying to bring a loving relationship into your life, for sure, work on caring for yourself, work on feeling better about yourself. That is going to help, but it will not determine that. It's like if you're trying to be healthy and you're going to eat better food and exercise, of course, that'll help and I'll support you in that process, but it will not determine and guarantee your health. There are more and more things at work than what we're aware of. So how do we be more conscious? How do we be aware of, are there unconscious processes in me that maybe do have an element there where I'm pushing people away? Is there a part of me where it's convenient on one level emotionally and safe to be on my own that I need to be more conscious of? Absolutely. That as we uncover and understand ourselves better, can we start to guide and direct our life in a way that's more in line with kind of what we want and what we need? And sometimes maybe we think we want a loving relationship and we need a loving relationship because we're told we need that, but there's another part of us feels safer not having that. We are complicated people. Human beings are complicated creatures. And the process of creating loving relationships and bringing loving relationships into our lives is just not straightforward. So please, if you're at that point in your life where you want love and you're trying to attract love, do not burden yourself with this empty formula of I need to do this to get that, because it will lead to frustration. It's like, I want to change the world. Really? Like, how do we know the world's changed when I can relax and say I don't need to change the world? I want to make the world a better place. Okay, so what is the point where we can say, well, it's a better place? When can I say, I've done, the world's a better place? Some of these goals are so open-ended and so empty that there's just no possible way of achieving it. But what we can do is say, I want to be more aware. I want to be more conscious. I want to feel more love in my life. But I'm also aware that attracting a loving relationship, it won't all end there. That when I get a loving relationship, I still got to keep working on loving myself, because maybe I'll sabotage it, maybe I'll push it away, maybe I won't be able to enjoy it. I know for me it was hard just to accept it to begin with. But I also understood that attracting a loving relationship was maybe part of me loving myself. And that loving oneself isn't just this arbitrary thing you do on your own when you're single for 2 years and then when you've done enough of it, you meet someone. It's way more complicated than that. Attracting good friendships, attracting a job that you're happy with, bringing a romantic relationship that is good for you, even if you're feeling bad about yourself, is an act of self-love. So the whole idea that self-love is just this solitary, individual, separate thing, and then we build up enough of it, we get this kind of 20 liters of self-love, and then we meet someone. It's just, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't match the reality of life, and it doesn't help. It's not something that, it creates a kind of an internal pressure and a sense of expectation on oneself that I think is unnecessary and unfair. So please, love yourself more, but do so with an openness and an awareness that, we love ourselves for the sake of loving ourselves. We love others for the sake of loving others. We don't love ourselves and love others to get something, to go somewhere, to arrive somewhere. We do it for its own sake. And if you trust that process and deepen that process, then life does have a way of kind of organizing itself in a way that kind of flows. But often what we want and what we need are two different things. And what is going on in us on a subconscious level or unconscious level and a conscious level, there's a lot more incongruency than maybe what we're aware of at times. To me, what I've discovered in my journey personally, and my journey of helping people and supporting people in these issues is, we just don't know a lot of the time, and life is complicated, and we've got to try keep things as simple and as honest as possible. Even though that's not convenient, even though part of us likes little formulas and little, if I do this, I'll get that. But as we let go of that and surrender the fact that, look, part of us just doesn't know, we've just got to work on these fundamental things and trust the outcome and surrender to what happens. It's kind of harder and it's more ambiguous, but it's more honest. And on one level, I think it's easier because it takes this burden of, I need to do this to get to this other place. We trust more and open up to life. So look, I hope this has helped. I hope this has made sense. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. And thanks for coming, and look after yourself. Take care.